Hello everyone, as I promised, I'm going to do a small tutorial on this very simple, not complicated recipe for a cabbage slaw. I don't usually use the word slaw because there's other ingredients that usually go into a coleslaw or a cabbage slaw. This is basically just a cabbage salad. Okay, so you don't need many ingredients. You need cabbage. Doesn't matter if it's red or green. Some people have a preference. Honestly, they taste basically the same to me. I know there's a difference in sweetness with the red, but it doesn't matter. Honestly, sometimes when I'm feeling froggy, I mix them. Do half of a head and half of a head on the other one. Doesn't really matter. You need salt. What I'm using is just kosher salt. You can use iodinized. It's fine. The most important thing is celery seeds and apple cider vinegar. If you don't like those ingredients, this recipe's probably not for you because you're basically drinking vinegar and the celery seeds act as a kind of a balance of what is going on. So, I like getting the cabbage that has basically the barrier around it, the way that they're supposed to be. I know some stores, they actually have this taken off and it's a more pristine head of cabbage. I like picking these because it protects it from the travel, the packing, and then the water, whatever that they're doing for it. But I take it off because eating those pieces are disgusting. So you have basically your unwilted cabbage. So what I'm doing for this tutorial, I'm just going to do like a half of a head because I have red cabbage that I made a few days ago that I still need to eat on. What you need to know about this recipe is because it is heavily doused in vinegar, it doesn't last long. It is best served cold, but ultimately you're going to want to eat it over a few days because it gets better. Sad thing though is it's got maybe a 3-day, 4-day expiration date, I would say, because the vinegar will start eating away at the cabbage and it'll be very soft. If you like that, that's fine, but I'm just trying to preface with if you want something very simple, maybe as a side for an upcoming dinner or something, hopefully not a lot of people because it's during a pandemic. But this doesn't keep very long. So what I like to do is find the middle of where it is and basically have a little bit of a scalping technique on both sides. So you're getting like little chunks. There's not really a specific dicing method. I will warn you that if you mince the cabbage very finely, you will reduce the time that it will be good. Basically, again, the vinegar is going to be eating away at this produce and bigger chunks work better. But again, it's up to you to experiment. So the one thing that I find with green cabbage is the inside where it gets really super white. It's very hard. It's very bitter. It's not good. So I usually take some of these out. Some of them are easier to pull out than others. But yeah, so let's go ahead and cut these. So what I like to do, and I'll show you the size. Again, it doesn't matter, but this is what I prefer, are little tendrils like that. Because really this isn't a time-intensive recipe. This isn't something that's going to take you forever to make. So you really don't have to overcomplicate it unless you really want to. This isn't something that you really need to add a lot of thought into. explode. It's slippery. So now I do break up the cabbage. Some of the more ripe, well, not ripe, the earlier cabbages, when you get them, they're very, very compact, and you want your seasonings and your vinegar to be able to get into everything. It needs to touch every piece, because, you know, if you start eating this and you get a really, really unseasoned, bitter piece of cabbage, it's going to ruin your palate. It's not going to make you feel good. No. And then, you know, again, you can make them as small as you'd like. It's okay, boy. Odin doesn't like cabbages. My cabbages! Okay. So just break these up. And again, I just want to repeat, maybe if I didn't even say it before, this is a cold dish. This is not a dish to be served room temperature or warm, because it's cabbage and vinegar. I know a lot of people like kimchi and a lot of different stuff like that. I'm not a fan. This is definitely a cold food. So that's basically half of a head of cabbage. So here comes the fun part. And this is kind of where, this is a recipe per se, but it's really to taste. It's hard to describe, because when you have a amount that you're going to be eating on for a few days, the vinegar will eventually dissipate over time, because it's being soaked up into the cabbage. So you may want to continue spritzing it with vinegar, maybe to taste, as well as the salt content. Cabbage will get that as well. Like you may eat it one night, and then the next night you go to eat it for your lunch or, you know, something, it doesn't taste the same. So this does change a little bit over time. So you may be going back and forth between your spice cabinet and stuff, just to continue adding and getting that balance. So for a half a head of cabbage, I try and do as close as I can to a cup of vinegar. That's a lot for some people. So for this instance, because it's a new thing to you, maybe you don't really know how you feel about it, you can do a half a cup of apple cider vinegar. Basically what you want to do is you want to have enough so that the volume of the vinegar can basically cover and touch all pieces of the cabbage. Now, I used to put pepper in this. Ultimately, I replaced pepper with garlic salt, or maybe some oregano. This is being very difficult. But salt and pepper go, again, good with everything. Very simple. But I don't add it anymore. But I would normally say at least add pepper with salt. Now, you might think that's a lot of salt. Again, we're kind of balancing the acidity. The vinegar really is going to kick, because there's not much else that's there that's having this sort of chemical reaction. So the salt is trying to combat it. Now, the other thing that I actually like, now this is an assortment of spices. So basically what's in this is you have onion, salt, garlic, and orange peel. It's very nice. Very, very good addition for this little treat. Simple recipe. And you can just be liberal. Basically, you're lightly coating everything. So, most important part of this recipe, why I like it so much, is celery seed. If you can't find celery seed, there is not a replacement. Celery salt is disgusting. It does not work with this recipe. Celery seed, even though they get stuck in your teeth, they kind of linger. After you eat this, you will find some celery seeds in your mouth a few hours past eating this. This is the key. It works with the salt, it works with the vinegar. It really kills some of the, I mean, a lot of people don't like vinegar because it's kind of painful. Like it really is super bitter. I opened this. It's the wrong way. You take it off. You are going to be very, very liberal. There's not really a measurement. Again, you can have maybe, I would say, 1/4 of a cup per 1/2 cup of vinegar because you're really dousing it. But honestly, just be super liberal. It doesn't, that's a lot. Now, again, once you start mixing and everything, you can add more. It's not going to be a big deal. What do I want to use? I don't know if I added enough vinegar, but for this recipe and people who might not like vinegar, I don't know why you're continuing to watch the recipe though. But it's very simple. This isn't difficult at all. This doesn't take any skill. You're just basically getting the ingredients. So, that's it. That's the recipe. It's done. You can add different things to this. This recipe kind of is in my family. It's not like an exclusive like lasagna or casserole recipe that's, you know, handed down. It's not like a dessert that is secrets are hidden within it. But different people in my family have changed some of the things that are in here. They do add maybe Swiss chard, celery, like actual celery. There's different things in there, so you can go crazy with it. But ultimately, I like it just like this. Where is a fork? So after you do a taste test, it's really up to your palate. If you want it to be bitter, it's perfectly fine. You can start with a low vinegar amount and then add over time. You really you want the whole thing to be wet. It's basically it. You don't want a dry patch in here because, I mean, if you like cabbage by itself, that's fine. But I don't. I want things in it. Put that there. A little bit more salt. We'll see how this goes. That's it. Balances there. So one of the other FYIs is if you really haven't messed with vinegar in the fridge, it does kind of, it takes the smell of some of the other things that you have. So I would cover it, put it in Tupperware, something. Don't just leave it out because vinegar is just going to be everywhere. That's just everything that you're going to smell. Other than that, leave any comments that you have. That's my recipe. It's a very good treat. Try it. It's not expensive at all. Again, cabbage, sea salt, or just regular salt, celery seed, maybe some other spices like pepper, garlic, onion, apple cider vinegar. That's it. Enjoy.